Let me say a very big welcome to all of you to our weekly press briefing. As you know, since we took over this portfolio, we have consistently tried to keep the public informed through your various platforms, and I want to welcome you all to this regular weekly press briefing of the Executive Mansion. And today we are here again at the Executive Mansion, where we are continuing our activities from. Let me apologize to all of you for keeping you waiting, for starting late as we had planned. The simple reason is that today, as you may have heard, we had, or is currently still ongoing, the first cabinet meet and greet with confirmed cabinet members and advisors to the president. And that meeting started since this morning. We've been in it, it's still ongoing. So we had to ask for excuse, myself and that of the legal advisor. But I'll introduce the legal advisor shortly. So that is why we are starting at this point, and kindly bear with me. Those of you who are following online, via radio, or even on social media, we'd like to also say welcome to our weekly press briefing. So I earlier on talked to you about Councillor Bujuben Keita. Councillor Bujuben Keita and I will be on this press briefing today, and Councillor Keita is the legal advisor to the Office of the President here at the Executive Mansion, and he's going to be also speaking about some of the legal questions and legal issues that we may delve into later on. And I also want to give a special welcome to one of the reporters who came all the way from Bomi, Radio Bomi. This is the first time that he's coming, and especially for that radio station. One of the things we've tried to do is to ensure that we have our local radio stations also part of this engagement. And this is our honest effort to get our reporters from out of the county, out of Montserrado, because most of you, if not all of you, are stationed in Montserrado. So this should be able to give the people of Bomi an opportunity to also follow through. Hopefully he can produce those content for the audience. And over time, we'll also try to engage other journalists and media institutions in other parts of the country, other counties. So hopefully next week we can bring in another reporter so that they too can get a feeling of the presidency and get a news about what's happening in the country, especially the seat of the presidency. So I want to say welcome. I want to thank the people of Bomi of having you, and to also hope that you can share the information with your audience at the part of Liberia. Again, the president has always had a very busy week, and is still ongoing. This week saw a lot of visitation, congratulatory messages keep pouring in from world leaders, from other countries, and notably among those messages was the message from Egypt. The president received in audience the Egyptian ambassador. He brought words of congratulations from his government and his president particularly, and also extended their country's willingness and readiness to support and work with President Joseph Yima Boakai as he worked every day for the Liberian people. The president also had visitation from the International Monetary Fund. As you remember, sometimes immediately after elections, there were meetings held in Washington, D.C., where the president had gone for a visitation, particularly at the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. So the delegation was a return visit in extension of trying to review Liberia's current status with the IMF, and seeing what are the different issues that the country needs to work on so that we are possibly ready, we are possibly available for support from the International Monetary Fund. And the delegation, members of the delegation were very happy. They're currently still in country, and they had a very fruitful meeting with the president. They're currently working with the Ministry of Finance to assess where the country stands when it comes to our own issues that relate to the country's own workings with the International Monetary Fund. There were some challenges, especially how, about 18 months back, Liberia wasn't qualified based on some action or inaction by previous administration, and this is an attempt by our administration to rekindle the relationship between our government and the International Monetary Fund and see what compliances we can follow through so that we as a country can be able to benefit from those support that the International Monetary Fund gives to countries, especially that fit our portfolio. There was also a visitation by the team from the Liberia Electricity Corporation. As most of us know, LEC, there has been a lot of issues surrounding access to electricity and the challenges of recent. So the president saw in audience the head of LEC, Honorable Monica Tan, and some partners came for visitation. So he's concerned about the current state of our electricity in terms of the distribution, but also how people are able to get electricity, because that's what the Liberian people care about for the most part. So there are conversations happening at the moment around other possibilities of access to electricity. So the Liberian people will get to know in due course as to those conversations around those partnership discussions that are happening, and they're good news, especially when it comes to the aspect of the electricity, access to electricity. The president also, as you know, president did not attend this Gone African Union Summit. He sent the Minister of Foreign Affairs. She attended the event, and a very colorful event, and she came to brief the president on those discussions and those happenings. And I mean, he was very honored by by the representation of the foreign minister. As you may know, some of you came yesterday. We had a very beautiful commissioning ceremony of ministers who have been confirmed, as well as advisors to the president, participated in the commissioning ceremony where the president did commission them, gave them the certificate, and it was a very colorful event. I also did mention earlier on about the first cabinet meet and greet by confirmed ministers and advisors to His Excellency, advisors for legal affairs, security, the economy, political, all those advisors who were confirmed. We've been having a serious meetings surrounding key subjects. And I can also report to you today that the government has turned a month-old young baby, 1 month-old baby, yesterday, and today is actually 31 days. The 31 days of the government since inauguration on January 22nd. But I can also report to you, besides just informing you about how we've clocked, but since the government inception, there have been a lot of different prospects, different conversations and actions that will be taking. The government is continuing to be formed. The president has consistently and every day, yesterday you saw we put out an announcement, the day before there was an announcement of the appointment of additional officials. So as we go along, the president will continue, and he has said consistently that he's working very hard to ensure that he brings on board the brightest of minds, and he even yesterday reiterated that his call in calling on all officials of government to declare their assets and ensure that they follow through all those issues and the anti-graft regulations. They should follow it, and it's not going to be, he keeps on reiterating, it's not going to be a business as usual, and he's very clear on that, and he consistently and regularly reminds his official that when you are appointed to any position, your role and goal is to do the work of the Liberian people. So he's encouraging all the appointees to please follow the laws, continue to work for the Liberian people. Whatever position you find yourself in, you are there to be able to improve the sector and ensure that his agenda is met. In terms of reporting to all of you, especially to the Liberian people, the 100-day deliverable is strong. And even today in the cabinet meet and greet meeting, it was reiterated that the 100-day deliverable is very clear. The committee is being set up to be able to ensure that the different sectors live up to their expectations. It's going to be officially launched, the documentation, even though implementation is ongoing. His plan of no car being stuck in the mud is still very clear. As we get ready to prepare for rainy season, there are plans to ensure that there are stations in different parts of our country that will have road equipment where there are challenges on those roads, that they will be worked on immediately, and there are conversations along with our military the Armed Forces of Liberia, you know, they do have the engineering battalion, and they're going to work closely with the Ministry of Public Works and all other sectors and our partners to ensure that our 100-day deliverable, particularly the aspect of roads, will be worked on. So I'll stop here. Should you have questions, I will just have Councillor Keita speak with you all briefly on some decisions that have been taken by the cabinet, the pre-cabinet engagement, and he will be informing you shortly. But again, thank you all, and I really look forward to our engagement as always. Thank you. Councillor Keita.
Secretary.
Councillor Keita.
Madame
Thank you. My name is Bushuben Keita, Councillor at Law, Legal Advisor to the President of Liberia. I have come to just brief you on a decision reached by the Cabinet at the first Cabinet meeting of the new government, which was held, which is still ongoing, in fact, because we didn't want to keep people here all day, so we had to prioritize talking to you. The decision is this: with regard to those positions that were established by statutes as tenured positions in government, agencies, commissions, and specialized organizations. Tenured positions. For example, you are there for 4 years or 5 years or 6 years. The Cabinet has decided that those tenured positions violate Article 56A of the Liberian Constitution, which says that everybody who works in the executive branch of government serves at the pleasure of the President. Therefore, the Cabinet has authorized the President, and it has been concluded as a government policy, that all of those cabinet tenured positions that are in government will be replaced. That the President will exercise his authority to appoint people to any position in the executive branch of government, whether the person has a tenure or not, except for those positions that are protected by the Constitution of Liberia. If the tenure was created by statute, it is the position of the government that it violates Article 56A that specifically states that all of those in the executive branch of government must serve at the pleasure of the President. Now, let me quickly add this. The Liberian Supreme Court has ruled in 2 major cases: Martin Sally Colley versus Executive Branch, and the LECC case, the constitutionality of Article 16.1 and 16.2 of the new LECC Act. In those 2 cases, the Supreme Court held that the tenure are contracts, and that those contracts must be respected in keeping with Article 25 of the Constitution. Therefore, for all of those tenured positions, they are considered contracts for a definite period, contracts for a fixed period. And in all such instances where there's an employer and employee relationship established, and there is an unexpired portion of the contract, the Supreme Court has held, and we agree, that those holding tenured positions should be compensated for the unexpired term of their tenure. For example, you went there in 2022, you have 4 years. In 2024, you still have another 2 years to go. If you are terminated today, government owe you your 2 years pay. So we will treat it as if you serve out your term. But you cannot compel the President to keep you in a position if you are not serving at the pleasure of the President. That will be violation of Article 56A. And you cannot make a statute law that contradicts, attempts to limit or repeal a provision of the Constitution. But, as the Supreme Court said, in keeping with Article 25, the sanctity of contracts, all those who have valid tenures who are replaced will be compensated for the unexpired portion of their tenures, in keeping with law. There is a caveat to that. The Code of Conduct in Article 5.1 says all officials appointed by the President of the Republic of Liberia shall not A. engage in political activities, canvass or contest for elected offices, B. use government facilities, equipment or resources in support of partisan or political activities, and C. serve on a campaign team of any political party or the campaign of any independent candidate. That's the law. The law says you cannot be a tenured official and you actively take part in politics, serve on a campaign team, dress up in campaign paraphernalia, post all your campaign photos, and do all the other activities, and then still expect your tenure to be respected or expect to be paid if your tenure is taken away. Therefore, we announce that for those individuals who have tenure today, who we have evidence violated the Code of Conduct, you will be replaced and will not compensate you. You will be replaced and will not compensate you. The laws are there. If you feel that you did not violate the Code of Conduct and you need to be compensated, you will take advantage of the law. But if we say to you that you violated the Code of Conduct, trust us. We have evidence, videographic and photographic evidence to prove that you did participate actively in politics, wear campaign paraphernalia while serving as a tenured officer, actively took part in canvassing or served on a campaign team. Those people will be replaced. They will not be compensated. For all the other tenured officers who may be replaced, they will be compensated for the unexpired term of the contract. This is not to say that all tenured positions will be replaced. It is to say that the government reserves the right, in keeping with law, to replace any tenured position, except for those positions that are specifically set out in the Constitution of Liberia. So I hope that the message goes clear. We are not going to be bound in any form by tenure. If you're not serving at the pleasure of the president, and the president desires to put somebody there who will serve at his pleasure in keeping with Article 56A, will proceed to replace you. If you have violated your Code of Conduct and you actively campaign while serving as a tenured officer, will replace you and will not compensate you. If you did not violate, will replace you and will compensate you. And we do not believe that those statutes that were established, that gave tenure, that they supersede the Constitution of Liberia or supersede Article 56A, except that we hold, in keeping with the Supreme Court's several rulings on the sanctity of contracts according to Article 25, that if we terminate your contract before your contract expires on its own terms, we are obligated to compensate you for the unexpired term of your contract. I hope I clarified our position. Thank you very much.
That's the voice of
Thank you very much. We'll take questions if you have on the different subjects. Where is
surrounding
legal advice of the office of the president.
so we'll now go to the
And he's here in this press briefing with Presidential
You just
Secretary.
ask me my question so I can go.
Madam Kula Fofana.
Finish or Kula on your usual thing, right?
Right, that's
Yes.
fine, that's fine. So
I
let
will take
me,
off. I will take
You
off.
have question
you will take,
for-
usually you can take 5 questions, especially on those issues, and
My
then we
question on the
can.
issues I raised.
As
Yeah,
a
thank you,
question,
I'm Julius
can also
Cotton, and I report for Fortune TV. Thank you for the explanation. I would like to ask, is there any specific amount relative to the compensation that will be given to people who did not violate the provisions of the law?
It's on a case-by-case basis. Like I gave an example here with some people having 2 years on their tenure, some people have 3, and some people have 4, some people have just a few months remaining. So whatever the situation is, we'll do the calculation. So the president is setting up a 5-man committee specifically to handle on a case-by-case basis tenured officers in terms of the calculation of your unexpired term and what your compensation is supposed to be, and then what are the compensation terms. In certain agencies, those agencies that are self-funded, for example, they can source their own funding to pay off whoever needs to be paid off. In other instances, the funding may have to be sourced from the government central revenue. So there's a 5-man committee that will be set up. I'm going to be one of the members of that 5-man committee for the purpose of doing all of these calculations, determining how many years remain on your tenure, how were you hired. You know, you have to show that you were hired properly through the regular processes, and then you can be compensated.
Questions for
Thank you, Councillor Keita. My name is Theo Williams, and I report for Focus on Liberia Online Television. Quite recently, Culture Ambassador Judy Annie revealed that her case with
Okay,
Prophet
can we
Keith.
finish with what I came for first? I beg you. I will answer your Julie any question. I want to finish off on the tenure thing.
All right.
I will come back to you.
Okay.
My name is Boardman Johnson, and I report for Banner FM. You spoke of positions created by law. Do you care to expand on some of those positions? And secondly, this decision by the government is not like getting at officials that did not support the Unity Party government.
So that's the argument that will be made on the other side, the last part of your statement, about whether, what they call it, witch hunting, whether we're trying to witch hunt people. No, it's not witch hunting. It's of respecting the law. Article 56A, go back and read it. It says everybody in the executive branch should serve at the pleasure of the president. You cannot make a law that will cancel the Constitution. You cannot. The Constitution is a fundamental law of the land, so it's the first. That's the reason why you see me keep going back to Article 25, which is also a valid provision in the Constitution, and it says you have to respect contracts. So in respect of contracts, this being a contract for a definite period, then we are obligated to pay the unexpired term. As for what are the laws, there are just many of them. Most of these commissions and other specialized agencies have tenure. Tenure were given to institutions, and we don't know on what basis it was done. For example, why would the lottery or fisheries or any of the other places have tenure? What special purpose do they serve for which the people who head them need to be protected? And so there's a whole list of them that you cannot just easily list off him. But we are talking about anywhere where they say you are there for a fixed number of years. That's the violation of Article 56.
Okay. So for
Yeah.
OKFM.
Thank you. My name is Joseph Daniels, and I report for OKFM. Sir, thank you for coming to make this clarity. Most of these tenure positions were created under the Unity Party government of former President Erling Johnson Sirleaf, where President Bouakai also served as a vice president. And those, according to the government then, those positions were created in order to prevent influence from higher authority. How can we guarantee the independence of those institutions like the LSCC, the GAC, now that we are saying that all these positions should work at the will and pleasure of the president?
It's not even guaranteed now, because if it were guaranteed, people holding tenure would not be participating in politics. It's supposed to be above that level. So definitely it did not work. But what we are saying is, it doesn't matter, you say most, I don't know how many of them were created during the former President Ellen Johnson's time, but we know that a lot of them were created within the last 6 years. But it does not really matter which president did it. The thing is that when it is discovered to be in violation of the Constitution, you correct it at that point. So now we say we're not going to continue in violation of Article 56A, and we're not going to compel this president to work with people who do not serve at his pleasure. And so we are going to restore sanctity to it. Let me tell you something. During the George Weah government, George Weah submitted a bill to the legislature to cancel all tenure. We have the evidence. If you want it, you contact the legal officer, you see it. It was signed by George Weah. He sent it to the legislature. He wanted to cancel all tenures. That bill was passed by the House of Representatives, and it was passed by the Senate. The only reason why it was not signed into law is because the Senate made certain changes on the bill. And so in that instance, the bill had to be reconciled with the House version. And that final procedural step was not taken. We are going to resubmit that bill. So it is not just this government intention to get rid of tenure. As a matter of fact, tenure was already passed on in the previous government by both houses, and it was sent from the president. So it is something that has been contemplated by the past government, now contemplated by us. We are going to take action even before the official repeal when we resubmit the bill. So we are taking action now, in keeping with law, in keeping with Article 56A.
Two more questions, take it from Laws and LBC Laws.
Yes, thank you. My name is Moses Pakolen. I report for Lux Radio. On the Article 89, the three commissions that are there, the Civil Servants Commission, the Elections Commission, and the General Auditing Commission are stated in the Constitution. Also, the same Article 89 says the legislature shall enact laws for the governance of these commissions and create other agencies as may be necessary for the effective operation of the government. And these tenured positions that you are talking about were created by parts of the legislature. Is the Joseph Boakai government not attempting to undermine what the legislature has already done?
Precisely. What we are doing is saying those acts violate the Constitution. Let me tell you something. The legislature can pass an act that becomes law, but insofar as that act violates the Constitution, it's null and void to the extent of the violation of the Constitution. So it is not true to say any act passed by the legislature is correct. The Supreme Court ruled, and I gave you the two cases example, where people were being removed and it was challenged. The Supreme Court ruled and said these people, the only protection they have is Article 25, sanctity of contract paid in for the unexpired term. So when the Supreme Court ruled clarifying a statute, it is the Supreme Court that can clarify any statute that is passed by the legislature. Now, if you see Article 89, it lists specific institutions that are to be formed. But did Article 89 say that when these institutions are formed, they are to have fixed tenure and that the president cannot change their tenure? No. Certain institutions are established by the Constitution. We respect that. But if the Constitution did not specifically say that you have tenure, and that tenure becomes a creation of the legislature subsequently in violation of Article 56A, then the issue becomes, can the legislature make a law that violates the Constitution? And my answer to you is no. And the decision taken by the cabinet today is that the answer to that question is no.
ELBC.
One more on this topic.
Okay, my name is Vasta Talu. I report for ELBC Radio. So
just few days ago, the both houses agreed to grant the government over 41 million in
Cool question there. Don't keep it for her, yeah?
Yeah, I'm talking about the financial implication about this stuff. So I can ask the question? Or I should
You will connect it to TNU?
Yeah, because you're talking about is settling them. So the 40 million they granted the government for the month of February, because the president wrote that he needed the money. So you talk about settling financially, settling the tenured officials. So where does government intend to get the money to settle them?
Whether government has money lying down to pay people who are being terminated is an issue to be determined by the committee that I was telling you about on a case-by-case basis. I said certain institutions have their own funding and they can pay the people off. And I said certain other institutions do not. And so they may be referred to our general revenue account. So the source of the money is going to be, in some instances, from the institution themselves, and in other instances, from the general revenue account. The Ministry of Finance has been instructed to work with this 5-member committee I told you about to source it. We're also going to be meeting with the tenured officers to discuss terms of payment for whatever money they are entitled to under Article 25 of the Constitution. And so let me come to, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the Julie Andy thing, but since I'm here, I would just like to make a clarification.
Yeah, let me just end the question.
I'm going to make a statement only. If a statement doesn't cover your question, then maybe we'll get additional clarification.
Okay.
Here's the way it goes. Liberia is a signatory to the Table Mountain Declaration that decriminalizes speech. On the 21st of July 2012, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf signed the Table Mountain Declaration in Monrovia. That was a big ceremony. I see a lot of you young, but maybe a few of you know about it in 2012. And that declaration said that going forward, Liberia has decriminalized speech. There's no more criminal speech in Liberia.
Okay.
Since 2012, signed by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. So you do your research, you find a Table Mountain Declaration, President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf signed Table Mountain Declaration, you will get up to date on it. You can even find the declaration itself and read it. Furthermore to that, after the Table Mountain Declaration was signed, the international, it was signed mostly to protect journalists like yourselves. The Liberian government took a further step. In 2019, President George Weah signed the Camara A. Camara Act. That one, I sure some of y'all were around for it because some of y'all have been around lately. And in that Camara A. Camara Act, the Liberian government repealed those portions of the Liberian Penal Code that criminalize speech, including insulting statement made against the president of Liberia. So what Liberian law says is that you cannot be arrested because you insulted somebody. You cannot be arrested for insulting somebody. It doesn't mean that you journalists should go around and be insulting people. But if somebody insults you and it hurts your feelings and it damages your reputation and costs you loss of money and loss of business, you have the right to sue the person in damages. Depending on how you feel, you suffer the loss. 1 million, 500,000, 50,000, whatever. So the courts are open for private lawsuits between individuals for insults. But you cannot be criminally charged or arrested. No longer under Liberian law. We have decriminalized speech. Criminal libel, criminal slander, all of those things have been decriminalized under Liberian law. And during this Joseph Human Boycott time, nobody will be arrested because they insulted somebody. From the president down, nobody will be arrested in this country for insult. If you insult the person and the person feel aggrieved by it, the person proper recourse will be to sue you in a civil action for the damages that you caused to them. But that action will be between the two of you. In the Julie Andy case, the city solicitor in the Monrovia City Court filed a case on behalf of the government of Liberia against Prophet Key and charged him criminally because he made certain statements on his broadcast that Julie Andy felt were insulting to her. It's in the environment on the arrest sheet. So they charged him criminally for speech that he made. The part that I played in it was I called the city solicitor and I asked him, is it true that you have arrested Prophet Key on behalf of the government of Liberia and charged him criminally? He said yes. I said, on what basis? He said, on the basis of a complaint filed by this lady who said that she was criminally insulted in his podcast. Then I asked him, are you aware of the Table Mountain Declaration that Liberia signed, where Liberia decriminalizes the criminalized speech? And are you also aware of the 2019 Camara Act, where we repealed all the penal code sections that has to do with criminal speech? He said, well, I'm aware of that, Counselor, but show it to me. I said, okay, go and look at it. And if you see that speech of the kind that Prophet Key made has been decriminalized, that people cannot be arrested for it, then your best course of action will be to drop the case. Because you are suing in the name of the Republic of Liberia. You have a writ that says Republic of Liberia by and through Julie Andy versus Prophet Key. And it is not the government position. This government is not arresting anybody for speech. We don't arrest people for abusive language. I don't care how abusive the language can be, because we decriminalize it. And when you decriminalize something, you don't make exception to it for particular people. You don't. It's the law. And there's two successive presidents who intervened in this particular area, just on behalf, mostly on behalf of you who are journalists, on the radio, you're doing your podcast and all of that. And will not arrest anybody for it. So our president, His Excellency Joseph Yuman Boyka, is, frequently insulted. Very frequently insulted. All on the social media, on this. Some people just get up, put $1 in their phone and just cussing. You think we're going to go out there to go look for those people to say we're arresting them? No. We're in the free speech era. And we will not support it. It cannot be a government action against Prophet Key. It cannot be the Republic of Liberia versus Prophet Key. It can only be the person who is aggrieved versus Prophet Key in an action for damages. That one, they can sue each other. The government has nothing to do with it. But when you do it in the name of the government, they will come and show you this is what our law say. You cannot sue in the government name for speech that somebody made. Especially in the environment, you clearly say that it was made in a podcast. And you journalists got to understand that this law, these two laws, the Table Mountain Declaration and the KAK Act, were specifically to protect your right to free speech. Just the other day, the president made a brief stopover at ENWA Hospital for the anniversary of the 70th anniversary of the radio station. He stopped there briefly, spoke to the people, told them thank you how ENWA has been in Liberia for so long. Then from there, he went to Ricks for the closing of the Baptist Convention. While he was at Risk Institute for the closing of the Baptist Convention, there were people on the radio and on social media and on other things saying that the president had been rushed to ENWA Hospital. He was undergoing treatment. You see? Now, in the old days, some kind of security person will call you in for questioning. You know the president is at risk. Why are you saying that he had this place and that place? We don't have time for that in this new government. You want to abuse your free speech? You want to abuse your social media facilities and do all of these things? Okay, go ahead with it. But this government will respect the law And these are pre-existing laws that were made in place. They are not laws created by this government. But we respect the law. And in respect of the law, we are not going to arrest somebody because you insulted another person. I don't care how harsh that insult is. Your recourse is to sue the person in damages for the damage that they caused you according to how you feel the damage was done to you. So that's the clarification on the Julie Andy matter. We did not participate in exchanging words with her. Julie is somebody that I know personally. And just to say to her that it's not a women's issue. Prophet Key is an equal opportunity man if you know him. 2017 here, United Party people will suffer at the hands of Prophet Key. Y'all go back and play his old recording. And even after he killed our side, quote unquote, our side, how does he call our president? Any of y'all know the nickname that he got for our president? You're scared to call him?
You call it.
Sleeping what? Oh no. You're talking now. So you know that even when he on our side, he still got to be giving you small thing. So it is not an endorsement of Prophet Key or his tactics. Prophet Key assisted us to a large extent during the campaign period. It does not mean that we agree that he can go around and say any manner of language to people. We prefer if he adjusts his language a little bit. But if he insults you, you cannot come to our courts and use our government name to arrest him. He's not subject to arrest. He's subject only to an action of damages for whatever action that he did to you. And when you sue him, he'll be forced to pay you your damages. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
I have a question.
Thank you.
So we will continue the press briefing as we ended. If you have questions, please ask us in relation to what we talked about today, or issues
the decision
for the course of the week.
that have been taken by the
We'll start
president.
with
My name is Marvin Jacobs. I report for the French Media Agency. I just want to know something concerning about the president being, consistently talking about asset declaration, and he has not mentioned about publication. Why?
All right. What you?
Thank you. Two quick questions. One has to do with the alarming wave of fire disaster. Is the president concerned? If so, what will or is his intervention? And I also like to get the specifics. The meeting the president met with the LEC officials. What are the specific issues discussed going forward, as we already know the issue of electricity in the country? Thank you.
Repose 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
2, 3.
thank you. My name is Prophet Babi Panza for Repose 231. My press secretary, the president recently had a meeting with HPX up to date. We haven't gotten any detail in that meeting. We would care to give us some detail. Thank you.
ELBC Online. ABC Radio.
Madam Press Secretary, my name is Anthony for ABC Radio. The president of recent, most of the appointments made on several occasions, the president, there will be a list with the name of a person, the time meaning that person will be changed. The most recent is with the situation with Rogers Doma and one matter Morris. How is the president intending to address that? Secondly, there are allegations that there are people in the president's circle who believe in certain people. When the president submit the list for publication, they omit certain names and replace it with their interest. How can he address that?
KMTV.
Well, thank you. My name is Aishin Yiba, and I report for KMTV. Where I'm concerned about the president's latest action with regard to the issue of drugs tax. And since then, we've been witnessing the issue about appointed officials coming to government, and I hear anything about them doing their justice.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Press Secretary. My name is Joseph Daniels. and I report for OKFM. Julius asked a question. I just want to maybe put a amendment to it or to add up. The president met with officials of the LECs. There have been outcries. There have been people calling for the dismissal of the LEC boss. The president was saying in a photograph, smiling. Is it that he enjoys the confidence of the president? And secondly, I was going through the president's 100 days deliverables, of which I saw the maintenance of the WASFI, the free tuition policy, but it has extended to 9th grade, which was not done in the past administration. Do we have the capacity to incorporate all of those people?
The press secretary will address these questions, and we'll take the last part.
Thank you very much. And I will start with your question. Start with the last one. So what you saw circulating, quote unquote, the 100-day, that was not the final documentation. And I did say that last week during our press briefing, and I will really appreciate that we all remember and refresh our memories to some of the things that we'll cover over these press conferences. Again, I just told you that there are discussions around the 100-day deliverables, and those specific currently being discussed by the cabinet meeting that's ongoing, the meet and greet conversation that's happening with cabinet members. So at the conclusion of that, we're going to have a final 100-day deliverable plan with the specifics. So for now, whatever you saw there, whatever you read, were initial conversation. So they will be clearly stated and be specific on what those deliverables are and how we intend to continue, specifically on the WAEC fee or WAS fee or others, considerations. So on the question of LEC, the president was smiling. I mean, people take pictures, but I can tell you the president is concerned about LEC, and as to his question on the specific conversation around that. So LEC team came and they shared some of the challenges that the LEC is faced with, but there were also a group called the Car Power that they came with a partner organization that they're researching and assessing the possibility of being able to contribute to what we have in terms of distribution, but to also ensure that we have electricity. So those were initial conversations around a company or an organization called Car Power that they brought in as well, and conversations are being held to review what is the capacity, what contract do they do, what programs are they into, if this is something that we're able to, because obviously LEC does have some limitation and challenges. That's why majority of the country cannot, have the electricity that we all need. On the issue of official not doing drugs test, so the president, as the part of the drug test, the reason for which he undertook the drug test, as he said, we all know the issue of drugs and alcohol addiction by our young people. And this government is very concerned about that. The availability of drugs, and you see how it's proliferating, it's everywhere. They coach our young people. So that was a symbolic move by the president to let the Liberian people know that he and his government are very serious about ensuring that this issue of drug and alcohol addiction by our young people is put under control. So it's not just by the taking of the drug test, but all those different programs. As you have seen probably during the course of this week, you saw the committee that was set up by the president as he announced it during his annual message, headed by the Ministry of Health. There has been an assessment ongoing around the different facilities, because if you see the issue of drugs, there are two key components. One is the access or the preventive. You have the preventive measures, and then you also have the cure measures. So the cure measures is where you're finding, institutions that are working with young people that you can work with them. But on the issue of access and the preventive measures is how do we ensure that drugs, where are the drugs coming from? So it is a combined effort. That's why even the course of the week you saw the action of the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency and how they've been able to find people who are key kingpin, I will put it that way, of drugs in this country. Most of them are non-Liberians and they partner with Liberians. So those kinds of systems, so it's not just taking the drug test, it's not just about that. It's a holistic approach. That's why the Ministry of Finance is involved to find resources for programs in that context. You have Ministry of Gender to ensure there's a social protection issue. You also have the LDEA, you have the security sector. So it's a combined effort. So it's a long-term approach. But right now, the team is looking at those issues, especially the institutions that are working with young people, and seeing what works. What are the challenges? What information are out there, and what partnership are required so that we can handle the issue of the cure aspect before going to the preventive part. The allegation of replacement on Roger Doma. I will state here again, as I've always said, we will not respond to rumor or gossips. If you go on the Executive Mansion website, the appointment that the president made, there's still the active appointment. There has not been any withdrawal whatsoever. The appointment that you see on the Executive Mansion website, they're there. So if there any form of withdrawal, you will also read that. You will also see a release from the Executive Mansion. And I will encourage journalists to source the Executive Mansion as the official source of the presidency. All of these rumors that the president is angry, or the president have issue, or the president said this, the president said that, all of those things are hearsays and gossips. And I will encourage journalists not to follow those through. You have our contact, you have our details. Any of those information, reach out to us. And again, I will state here, the president is the appointing authority. He decides who he wants to work with or who he doesn't want to work with. That the Constitution gives him the authority to do so. So at any point in time, and the other thing is, the president did not promise anyone job. The president is inviting people to his government, to his cabinet, because he believes that they believe in his ideas and they believe in the Liberian people and they're able to contribute to that. So the president can choose whomever he wants to for them to work with him. And that is in his purview. And as with the specific case that has been mentioned, the president have not taken any withdrawal action. The appointment is on the Executive Mansion website. If there any issue of withdrawal whatsoever, you will be communicated. And the president has that authority. I don't know how else I can overstate this, but it's very clear. Please, journalists, let's ensure that we have credible sources of information. And I wouldn't be in the business of responding or reacting to Facebook commentaries or people stating, oh, the president said this, the president said that, the president said the other thing. So that is what I'm going to let you know. You have our contact, you have our information, and our doors are always open to answer those questions that you want us to answer. So again, the appointment that the president made, our latest appointments are on the Executive Mansion website, which is the official source of information from the Executive Mansion. I encourage you to continue following through on those. On the issue of HPX and what has happened, well, again, if you follow contracts or partnership information agreement, it's not that because you agree or you came and had a preliminary meeting, and then next thing is the next day. These things take some time. So yes, there were preliminary meetings held. There are, our both teams are in communication. The team from Liberia as well as HPX reviewing all those legalities, all those issues, because as you know, these kinds of things, it's not just the executive will make the decision. It has to go through the legislature and to see all of the different possibilities. What are those questions that we have? So it's still in the preliminary stages of that. Conversations are still being had, but not every small meeting when you say, oh, today HPS team call, our team, they have called, then they have sent emails, that will not happen. But when those strategic and specific larger decisions are taken that the public needs to be aware of it, we will definitely inform you all about that. On the issue of fire disaster, I think that's a very important question. And we've seen this over the course of all of our dry season. There are these disasters that happen, and the president and the government is very concerned about the situation with the situation of fire in our country. and there have been some consideration happening. Anything relating to public statement or public decision around what needs to happen, conversations have been had, but the president is very concerned, and specifically the president also sent his condolences to the family that lost their life. We learned about 5 family members in one day, one giving scenario, and he's very concerned about that. He's asked his team to gave him some details so that he will be reaching out to the immediate family. But this is concerning. We saw the situation that happened in Bone County, and this is another one in the dry season. As we all know, it is very hot in Liberia right now. So we need to, personally, outside of the government response and reaction, but personally, we all need to take precautions. We know electricity is a challenge. We know the place is hot. But let's put safety first. Those of you who can afford smoke detectors and fire alarms, it's important to have that in your homes. Those of you who use generator, make sure it's well in a vented area where it's not somewhere in a closed place. Just take the personal precautionary measures. If you're using candles, try to make sure when it's in the night, instead of using candles, use the Chinese light. Let's take our, personal, because before government and other disaster management and other people come in, the situation or the casualty have already happened. So let's all as Liberians, and this is just a message from me personally to the rest of our community, to say let's take precaution. If you can afford fire alarm, smoke detector, please do that. If you can afford Chinese light, do that. Take the necessary precaution. If you're indoors, try to have a well, vented area. Electricity, because those of us who have electricity, trying to leave phones on charge, leaving lights on, leaving things plugged, all those kinds of things. Let's make sure we take those preliminary precautions so that before we get to a point, it's not too late for our families. In terms of access publication, I've said this to you all, that this is something that the president is committed to do, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And he also have encouraged his ministers to declare the assets and as well publish them. So he's very concerned about his voices, whatever he gave the words, and he's going to take on that. We'll take the last batch of questions, and then we end today's.
Following.
Okay, Madam First Secretary. Thank you.
Online.
Recently, the president set up an investigative team about the incident, the AFL incident that happened. So how far is the investigation?
TIFA. My press secretary, my name is Mori Fatima for TIFA Radio. I'm specifically concerned about the foreign minister's visit to the EU, why particular messages were brought back to the president. I think much more important for the Liberian people to be in the know as well.
My name is Boardman Johnson, report for Bana FM. Just to add to my quick question relative to the president nominations. I read in the local dailies, one of them, that Emmanuel Bongwe complained that he sent some names to the president, and those names were being misplaced in terms of nomination. So what do you care to say?
Pepe.
Yes, Mane Uchubu, yes, Kangachino, Igi Urabu. All right. On Friday, there was a disaster that probably is a fire incident, a fire person burned, and that incident. The representative of that issue, Margot Thomas, is calling upon the president to declare a 3-day mourning for the victims. My next question is, Executive Law Section 10.2 Section 10.2 says, as much as possible, as practicable, the President of the Republic of Liberia shall appoint at least a cabinet minister from each of the counties of Liberia, and send the President a Senate. The appointments being made, the ministers are now coming from the federal counties. You also have few counties are dominating, but you have to say that. And my last question is, a few weeks ago, the EPS director accused this boss that he illegally told EPS arm. I would like to know what was the procedure did he get the arm, and what is the way for non-members of the EPS to get on, so other people can apply for it.
You want on?
ABC. Yes, okay, so that is just a follow-up to the question I asked earlier. On the Executive Mansion website, and it's good that you want us to reference it, Councillor Alison B. Councillor was nominated as Deputy Minister for Land and Rail Transport. I was fortunate to have been at the legislature, precisely the Senate, when Rudolph Nat went for confirmation hearing on the same position. Again, one judge was appointed before Prince Tama to the Ministry of Public Works. Can you also address that? I don't know, is it a mistake or how is it happening?
We take the last question, focus on Liberia.
Thank you very kindly. Once again, Theo Williams, I report for Focus on Liberia Online Television. Quite recently, during the commissioning ceremony, the president vowed performance check of his officials of government. I'd like to know from you, Madam Press Secretary, how does the president intend to carry out the exercise moving forward?
All right, thank you all. Do we have any more? We'll take the last one. If none, then we'll answer these questions as you've asked. So I'll start with the question on the AFL investigation. As you know, there has been an ongoing investigation. It's an active investigation. And I can tell you there have been some preliminary updates and reports to the president, but that has not been declared for the public as yet. And the team still continues to, provide updates as they go on. But yes, the investigation is continuing, is ongoing. On the issue of the foreign minister's visits, where were those? One of the key things that the minister said was that, the visitors or the leaders that attended the visit at Addis Ababa, they all congratulated His Excellency President Boakai on his elections. They were very excited to receive the foreign minister and the message from our president. And they look forward to, some of them look forward to coming to Liberia, but more so they also look forward to welcoming officially their brother when he should have gone to the political summit of the African Union sometime this year. So basically it's around those diplomatic conversations around Liberia's own role. Our major issue, and he did say, he did speak about it during this annual message, specifically on our levies. Liberia is a part of these regional organizations, but we've consistently not pay our bills. And this is something that the government is very concerned about. We do owe the AU, for example, ECOWAS and other organizations. And the team at the Ministry of Finance and our office here reviewing where we stand and how we intend to live up to those obligations. And this is something that the president has consistently said, even with his meeting with his colleagues here, for example, they do talk about that. On the issue of Emmanuel Gonkwe and the misplacement of his list, again, I did say that asking the president is the appointing authority. He appoints who he wills. He decides who goes to what entity and what service to provide. So if someone recommends to say, oh, I want this person to come here, it does not mean you're going to get the job. And he can also look at that. He respects everyone, particularly the EFF role in the elections, and what support they brought to the table. And like everyone else, the president saw it as a mission, a collective mission to uphold and reawaken the spirit of our country and rescue this country. It was not a mission for job distribution. I want to reemphasize that. It wasn't a mission for job distribution. However, the president has consistently said that he appreciates everyone to come on board, and he's trying his best effort to be very inclusive. And it's not, he has said, in fact, to a point where even our political party, I'm a staunch leader of the Unity Party, even to the extent where our party I mean, we've complained consistently about, not being factored in and all of that. However, the president has called on Liberians from all walks of life. The other day I was listening to the other members, other political parties who were hailing the president for encouraging them. Unlike time past, unlike former government that will come and say, once they get it, nobody else. In fact, to the extent at which they will even put people on blacklists and say, you will never get a job. Or these are the list of people who will never be appointed. Some of us, we're on blacklist around here. So the president, our president, is very open to appointing and involving everyone. So we just want to encourage others, we want to encourage Liberians. When you're given the opportunity to serve, when you're called to service, you shouldn't see it as, oh, I must go to this place, or I must go to that place. We do understand the need for your qualification matching up with the appointment, and that you are put in a place where you're able to function, and the president have consistently placed people in those areas. Unless people decide if you're called to service and you do not want that, and then you can respectfully say, oh sir, thank you for the opportunity, but I wouldn't want, and that those kinds of engagement can happen behind the scene. So what will have happened to come and say, oh, because I do know we were giving some communication that there was some discussion around finding other opportunities, but coming out to score political point, I think this is something that, I don't think it was the best effort, or it's in the best interest of the country. In fact, people will say, oh boy, it was this thing about you all, just a job, you should send your people and you get, selected. There are many foot soldiers who were on the battlefront, who were fighting for this victory, who was fighting for this rescue mission, but up to now, some of their names have not been called. But they didn't see that and say, oh, okay, the president, I'm angry, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that. Because for them, it was, even though, yes, people want to serve, but it was more so for the country. So I just encourage others to not just see it as, they ask you to serve, you don't want to serve, it's optional, but to come and want to score political point against the government, I don't think it was in the best interest of themselves. On the issue of the 3-day mourning that was asked about, I have not seen the communication, if there was any communication, if it was just a public call to ask the president to do that. I think we should try as much as possible. We have a very down-to-earth president. We have a president who is very accessible. We have a president who listens. We have a president who seeks counsel for many people. So should anyone have any issue or want the attention of the president, it's just simple, especially if you, as you've mentioned, as a lawmaker, you already have access based on your own setting and portfolio. It will be good to write a communication, and that the president team will look into it and to see, how we can go about doing that. But what you said, I will bring it to the attention of the president, and update him that this is something that a representative from the specific district that the fire disaster happened, will be, taken seriously. Talking about a point, so the law that was quoted, please, last week somebody brought this up. I didn't see the law. Somebody said it was a constitution of 1875. But that constitution, if there was any of that sort, was repealed. We have the 1986 constitution, and I've not seen any provision within that constitution that talks about appointing people from each of the counties. So that is not in our constitution. But I do know the essence of the conversation. I like to always see from whence these conversations come from. I think the essence is to have some form of representation within the government, and this is something that the president is concerned about. He is making his best effort to make sure that there are people from all parts of Liberia who are, in the government and are serving their people. On the issue of EPS, how to get armed. I don't know how to get armed. I wish I knew the procedure of getting armed. Maybe I need to go to the police academy. It's something I will find out, but I'm not sure this is something that is an open call. And the EPS is the Executive Protection Services, and it's to protect the executive. So if the public interested in arms, I don't know how else, and maybe they got a small arms commission. I think, I don't know how private citizens can get armed. But specifically to your question on Yeke, the, what's his name? Pepsi Yeke case about the arm, yes, there were the paper that was sent, the call or the announcement that was sent in the public. And yes, I can confirm to you here that the arm was turned over to the EPS director, and they're in possession of the arm. And that was a good mark. I mean, even though the individual I was mentioned wasn't the one who brought forth the arm, but other people intervened and say, you know, the thing here, just take the arm and don't bring noise in. I mean, this is not so good. But yeah, but yes, I can confirm that the arm was received by the EPS. The security advisor did inform me on that. On the issue of performance check, yes. The president is very clear that the people who are being appointed to different positions will have to report regularly, give update on their own deliverables. Because if you see how it is set up, we first have the 100-day deliverable, and they'll go through the 150-day, and then we'll have the long-term development plan and the sector-by-sector plan. And that we'll have a clear M&E plan that each agency, for example, or each sector team that will be under a particular pillar of the arrest agenda will be able to give regular updates. That's why you have the cabinet secretariat. I mean, recently, the previous appointment before this, the president appointed the director general of cabinet. That role is part of his role will be to coordinate, working with the Ministry of Finance, which is the line agency responsible for government development plan, to institute measures how we will check performance. So part of it's not just about what you deliver for your sector, but your own personal, performance, how you're performing in your agency, and how you intend to, go about doing that. So yes, they're very clear about that. On the issue of the appointment, again, as I said, the president has the authority to appoint who he wills. In terms of those specific, again, I wouldn't, when what social media say, what a newspaper said, and this person said, also there's a possibility that the president can send information or letter to the legislature, and he can also send communication behind it, recording that communication, that particular communication. So there could be specific instance, but because the question was, generally there were no specific, so I wouldn't know that particular, case by case. But again, we're open to your questions and your comments, and we look forward to engaging you next week. Thank you all, and have a wonderful weekend.
So she's Presidential Press Secretary, Madam Kula Bufana. Earlier on, you listened to the legal advisor to the President, Councilor Bujuban Keita, here on today's press briefing. Well, my name is Aisha Niva. Thanks for watching KMTV, and you have yourselves a wonderful day from the grounds of the Executive Marshal